On a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and I hope that you've got that implanted in your brain, what that actually means. It means that you are here, and this is your place to be for Miami football talk each and every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock with myself, Mark Rodgers TV, the voice of college football, and one Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. Just down here in South Florida, trying to get everything prepared for this potential, hurricane situation. But me, myself personally, I have gas in my car. I have plenty of water and food already secured. So, if I need to meal prep for, a week, I have the ability to do that. If not, then, I just have food for next week, but I'm good.
And Cam, this is just the outset of the hurricane season.
No,
And
it's the middle-ish. It goes from
Okay.
June to October.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm mistaken then. Yeah, it's just an unfortunate thing that you guys have to prepare for those. I guess it's the one downfall to the beautiful weather and scenery that you enjoy year round.
Yeah, and and just emblematic of the season, this named storm is Dorian, so they go in alphabetical order, so this wasn't the first one or anything. The other ones, they just kind of went back out to sea. So hopefully, we get something like that. But and even before we jump into talking about football, this is interesting because, Miami and Florida were supposed to play this weekend originally, as opposed to last weekend when we did actually play. So getting that game in on the 24th is doubly advantageous because it could honestly have been canceled, and then we would have had another 11-game season just like we did a couple of years ago when that trip to Arkansas State got canceled. So, that week zero kind of a thing, especially for a team that plays this far south and towards the tropics, ends up actually being, a good thing, even though, we'll talk about what happened in that game. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a situation that Florida State and Boise State officials are battling right now with the storm headed their way and Jacksonville slated for the game site on a Saturday night. We are talking Miami and Florida, and of course, the game that we've been talking about and anticipating for months and months and months is in the books, and it may have been ugly. It may have been a rock fight. I jumped online after the game and took calls and had a ton of people on the line complaining about, and I'm talking about generally neutral fans, fans of other teams, talking about how ugly the game was. I thought it was a thing of beauty. No, it wasn't clean, but man, these kids are 18, 19 years old. They don't get to play preseason games like they do in the NFL. There are going to be mistakes made. There are kids out there that have barely been on the field with live bullets. And I thought it was a hard-fought game. It was, of course, exciting. There was a point there, Cam, with about 4 to 5 minutes left in the game that I think there were something like 3 consecutive plays in which you thought, okay, Florida's controlled the game now. Nope. Miami's got control of the game. Nope. Florida's got control of the game. 24-20, Florida wins it. Your thoughts before we dive into the particulars?
Yeah, it was I agree with you. There were exciting moments. Obviously, there was performance that needs to improve on both sides of the ball for both teams. Both teams did hit some chunk plays, whether those being, passes of 15 or more yards or runs of 10 or more. Both teams had a good number. I think Florida had 8 and Miami had 12 explosive chunk kind of plays. Obviously, Florida's tackles for loss and sack numbers were a little inflated because of a couple issues, on Miami's offense. But they were still getting after it. I'm not going to sit here and try to, talk it away or anything. But yeah, both teams, I think they saw things that they will take away from this game as being positive. They'll also take away a bunch of things on both sides that need to get improved. Personally, I think, and having spoken to a lot of people after this game, just because of who I am and, running the website and whatnot, a lot of feedback is that people are higher on the future potential trajectory of Miami as opposed to Florida. Now, a big portion of that is Miami's paper tissue soft schedule this year also. But yeah, I think that we saw a lot of things that if you tighten up some of the details, you dot the I's and cross the T's, I think that Miami can still be in shape for a good season. Florida also, obviously they beat us and, they could go, but, they have a tougher road to hoe, as it were, than we do. So, we'll see what happens. But in general, it was the game that I thought we were going to see. I hated the fact that I was 100% right and I called the exact score of the game. And I wanted them. I did, absolutely. Yeah,
I
that
was
was.
just about to brag on my 26-20 score.
Oh, no, sir. 24-20. Dylan Sherry from our
Ooh.
website in the predictions also had that, and Barrett Salih of CBS Sports also had the exact score of the game. And it, I wanted to be wrong. I honestly did. I'm a Hurricane alum. I was cheering very hard for the orange and green. But yeah, some of those issues that I thought were going to, keep us from winning actually did keep us from winning. So yeah, but I was 100%. I was dead accurate on that one.
So I don't remember the game times involved, but after the Kadarius Toney 66-yard touchdown,
Yeah.
that was just a poor job of Miami, obviously corralling him. Al Blades in particular, I remember, had a good shot at him and a couple other guys. After that play, from that play up until probably 10 to 12 minutes left, when Florida made a few plays, the Felipe Franks throw down the seam to either Swain or Hammond that went for like 50-some yards for a touchdown. Between those two moments, I thought if you stripped away the score and I don't know what the yardage totals, if I just sat there and watched the game and I didn't have any numbers flying by me or anything to indicate what team was what and just said, who's the better football team? I thought Miami outplayed them, not significantly, obviously. They couldn't run away with the game, but I thought they were the better team from like mid first quarter to late third into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that bears itself out to be true. Miami scored 3 times in the first half, as opposed to 1 for Florida. Now, 2 of those were field goals. Obviously, so it was 13-7 at halftime. But yeah, after just a real bust in coverage there, and very poor tackling. It wasn't just Al Blades Jr. Amari Carter had 2 chances to tackle Toney on that play. Gervin Hall went for a kill shot, but missed, kind of slid off the side of his thigh and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, I think we missed 5 or 6 tackles with 4 dudes on that play, and everything. But after that, defense really did settle down. The tackle for loss numbers were not what I think we're going to see from this defense, just because, it was to try to contain Felipe Franks was a scheme. You're coming in from the offense's right, the defense's left, to pressure him to run to his left as a right-handed quarterback. And then the right end on that side, Jonathan Garvin, who is as big and athletic as Felipe Franks, is sitting there in spy mode and just saying, cool, you're not going to get around me. You're not. So, the fact of, and we spoke about this, Florida's offense really took off at the end of last year when Felipe Franks became a willing runner. So Miami did their damnedest to take that away. And yeah, for a large portion of the game, Miami did hold control in the fourth quarter. There were some lead changes, but down towards the end there, man, that fake field goal should have been first and goal on the 1. They called a terrible holding penalty on Will Mallory, who literally wasn't even using his hand. He's going like this across the guy. So that wasn't a holding. That wasn't a holding penalty. And Jeff Thomas in the end zone. That ball hit you in both hands. I need you to catch that ball. But that could have put Miami up 10 points, and that would have been a very, very, very different game.
Absolutely. So there's so much to dive in here because you're starting to hit on some of the officiating, which I questioned. I didn't think it was a horribly officiated game.
I did. It was terrible.
Calls.
It was terrible.
Calls. It was terrible.
It was terrible both ways. And the thing about it, it was pretty terrible. It was pretty terrible.
So I guess we might as well stay on that path. So I'm not going to get to Manny Diaz's responsibility in regards to all the pre-snap penalties. I wanted that to be part of the Manny Diaz analysis here, but let's stick with the officiating while we're there. Okay. So the 2 PIs against Miami, I thought were phantom calls. Those were bad.
Yeah, and I mean, but the thing, when Miami gets a stop, but you call that penalty all of a sudden, Al Blades up the sideline in perfect phase coverage, didn't even touch the guy. And then you want to call it on that. I mean, and I'm not blaming the officials for the loss. Don't get that twisted. I have not said that. Nobody on our website has written that. I didn't tweet that. I have not said that in my personal life. All of that being said, I'm not going to sit here and say that officiating didn't have a major factor in the game. You know what I mean? It just, yeah. But yeah, those PIs were just, I haven't seen pass interference calls that bad against Miami since 2015 at Duke.
The other play that comes to mind, and I'm not saying that this was misofficiated, I just don't know, is the Cam Harris 50-yard run down the
Oh,
left sideline.
no,
There
no, no,
were
no, no.
2 calls made, and they didn't run any replays. So I'm waiting for the replays to see these holds on 2 wideouts, and they
What?
never came. I didn't see the replay.
No, I watched the replay. Jeff Thomas on the outside, that was phantom holding, because if that's holding there, then that was holding on Trajan Bandy or against Trajan Bandy on the Kadarius Toney touchdown. So you can't have it both ways. You know what I mean? So if Florida did not hold, and you see the guy, he's extending Bandy's arm out. I'm trying to demonstrate on the screen. But yeah, if you had the wide receiver for Florida holding in that way, and you don't call it on the Toney touchdown, then what Jeff Thomas did on the Cam Harris run is not holding either. So, because it's the exact same thing. I will, however, say I did rewatch that play, the clip on Twitter a couple of times. Brevin Jordan absolutely tackled his dude at the line of scrimmage. And he didn't even need to, just because because they ran a little inside move, and he was expecting to be either head up or going outside. And when the guy crossed his face, he dove and tackled him. And it was on the line, but not at the point of attack, because it was going interior and we were running exterior with it. But that was the penalty that they accepted, and he absolutely tackled him. So yeah, I can say that one was actually true. Yeah.
The one call that comes to mind that it's not necessarily a call by the officials, but I thought it should have gone to the replay booth. I believe it was the second of the Florida turnovers, was the pitch behind the back. The running back, the pitch was a little bit behind him that Franks made. There was a fumble that was like a 10-yard loss. And I thought the running back, I think it must have been P. Ryan, got his hands back on the football, and he was on his knees. And I thought that should have been looked at, and Miami got the recovery. And I thought it was touch and go. It wasn't an obvious miscall, but that it should have been reviewed.
On that one, they did. Watching it from home, I could see the referee kind of was in his earpiece. And what they said on the broadcast was that there was nothing conclusive when they looked at it at replay. So they were like, we're not going to stop it because we already can see that there's nothing conclusive to go back and look at. So we're going to kind of let that ride.
All right. My first 2 questions out of the gate have to deal with the performance of a first-year coach and a first-year quarterback and a first-game coach and quarterback. Okay. So the first item that comes to mind with Manny Diaz is the obvious. 6 pre-snap penalties in the first half. That's his responsibility. He also has to deal with a first-game quarterback, but it's his responsibility, and maybe something that he's going to deal with better. Maybe he's analyzed that and will certainly come out in game 2 and be prepared for those situations. But obviously, he's responsible. Is he to blame for all that? Not necessarily. It's quarterback. It's tackles backing off the line of scrimmage and jumping the snap.
Mm-hmm.
Just your thoughts about that aspect of it, and anything else that you could tell, something we talked about last week in regards to evaluating Manny Diaz's first game on the sideline as the head coach.
Yeah, there were a lot of operational issues, and I know from having been to that stadium a multitude of times for high school football games and a couple previous Miami games, there is no play clock in an easy line of sight. So it's weird where you got to look to see the play clock. And I think that Jaron, he was, used to, okay, like at Hard Rock, it's here or whatever. And it's not there at all in Hard Rock or Camping World Stadium. So I think he got off with that a little bit. Also, just, I guess there was just lag time between Dan Enos sending in the plays and everything. And, I have play sheets from other playbooks because I'm a nerd like that. So, I download them and I look. And I mean, the verbiage, the nomenclature for these plays can be extensive. I mean, it's not Spider 2 Y banana. You know what I mean? There's way more to it than that. So if there's a translation kind of thing, okay, you're trying to get it in, and then, okay, I'm trying to get that and everything. But I mean, yeah, it was just, there was a lot that needs to get cleaned up. And I was talking about this, I hopped on another podcast and I was saying, look, as an educator, former educator now, but I taught for 15 years. I'm thinking, what would I do in a situation like this where I need the performance to change? And I said, I hope that they run a 20-second play clock in practice, not even a full 40 seconds down to 25. Give them 20 seconds flat, just so that you have to move. You got to move. You don't have time to break the huddle at 3. You know what I mean? And so you have 6 penalties pre-snap. You have a timeout to stave off another penalty in the first half alone, another one of those in the second half. So you're talking 8, maybe 9, maybe 10 pre-snap things, and you only ran 66 plays. Like, bro, that's pretty bad. So those things need to get cleaned up, and that's on everybody. That's on Manny. That's on Dan Enos. That's on Jaron Williams. That's the entire offense. That's the sub packages. Those the position coaches. The whole entire organization has to do better with that. Now, insofar as Jaron Williams, I think that he played well. I think that he definitely showed flashes of the talent that we've spoken about him having, and showed flashes of why he won that job, being able to extend plays, being an accurate passer, completed 65.5% of his passes, and that's even with a few drops in there. Numbers could have been even better without some penalties and things. If Jeff Thomas catches that ball in the end zone, that's 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and you leave with a win probably. You know what I mean? So he did a lot of good things, but also, we still see that he's young. I talked about last year when the game looked a step too fast for him, and it seemed a lot, or not a lot, but that did rear itself up on Saturday where, okay, cool, I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to look here and look there and go through my progressions, but that in your head, that time clock needs to be going, bro. Like, you need to throw the ball away, and I'm screaming that in my house. Throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. But he's taking a 2-yard loss to step out of bounds or another sack or something like that, instead of just being 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. Those 2 yards make a difference, especially a couple times you get 11 yards on 3rd and 12. Now you punt the ball because it's 4th and 1. You know what I mean? So there was that. Jaron even talked about the fact of, hey, look, I held the ball too long, and I, caused the sack count to go up. And that's what I was referencing earlier. Florida was good. Florida's defensive line clearly was the dominant force against Miami's offensive line. That wasn't a 10-sack performance. I'm sorry. That should have been 4, maybe 5, which I'll get, which is still a damn good game. But 16 tackles for loss and 10 sacks? Nah, no. That's not indicative of the game, I don't think. I think that's because it was like a 50-50 ball, or a 50-50 proposition on the play. But Jaron held the ball so long that all of those ended up becoming sacks, So that needs to be quicker also. And then there were a couple of times, and Dan Enos, and I know we'll get there, but he was very critical of Jaron Williams, that tough love kind of a thing, because he said, look, Jaron did not play well enough for us to win. And yet in spite of that, we almost did win. Like there were 2 plays and we could have been up 10 points in the 4th quarter with like 4 or 5 minutes left. And man, that would have been ball game, and I know it and I feel it. But we missed it. Okay, that's fine. But people are like, oh, wow, like, what are you doing? You're throwing him under the bus. He's not throwing him under the bus. He's having a high standard. He's pushing for perfection, which should be the goal. And then, he also said that there were guys running wide open in the secondary, and people went and they clipped and they gifted some of these plays. And there was one with Jeff Thomas early in the game, and he ran a fake post or fake corner going back to the post and turned his defensive back around like he was, doing I don't even know what, just some kind of pirouette, like he's a dancer or something, and was, just butt naked, wide open. The only person in the end zone, just open. But the blitz package got there from Florida, so he didn't have time to look that way and throw that ball. So I think that there was a little bit of both sides of things that were going on there. But in general, Jaron Williams was very accurate. He showcased a strong arm, the ability to escape the rush and extend plays, climb the pocket from time to time. So I'm excited to see where he goes from here. But yeah, there were still those operational issues, delays of game, things like that, that do need to improve moving forward.
For the Florida offense, the 2 huge plays, the one in the first quarter to Tony and then the one late in the 4th quarter to Josh Hammond. Yeah. It was a beautiful throw from Felipe Franks inside the 5-yard line that he threw down the seam on a dime.
That was to the 15. It was like 65 yards from the 20 to the 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something in that range. But they scored. Yeah. They scored on the Franks keeper after that, I believe. But Florida couldn't run the ball. And I thought Miami's defense, aside from a couple breakdowns, and when you run, talking Florida's offense, they ran 55 plays, so they didn't run a ton of plays. But still, over the course of a football game, the other guys have talent too. You're going to have a few breakdowns on defense. I thought the Miami defense, I would grade it out A-, B+.
I would go a little bit less than that, just because it's early in the season and I cannot accept those breakdowns as being acceptable. When those two, if you want to talk about, a play on Miami side costing us the game. On the offensive side, those plays cost us the game on defense. You can't have 7 missed tackles or 5, whatever it was, on a quick screen. Where you have, even if you don't have the leverage on defense, you get there that quickly. And then you can't have just a blown coverage like that. Amari Carter, I love him. He played well, but he's supposed to be the middle of the field safety. They're playing cover 3, and that's why Gilbert Frierson let his guy have an inside release, because, the middle of the field safety is supposed to be in the middle of the field, but the middle of the field safety went the other way. And all of a sudden now that shot up the seam is wide open. So Manny Diaz even spoke about that. Blake Baker spoke about it also. Said that ball shouldn't even been thrown if number 5 is playing center field the way he should be. So, I'm a little bit more critical. I'm going to give it, I think I gave it a B-, C+, in the good, the bad, the ugly breakdown for the game. So, Miami's defense did a lot of things well. Curtailed the running game, forced 4 turnovers, things of that nature. But for a defense that needs to be championship caliber, for a defense that has the recent legacy, and I'm just talking the short term of 2 years, not even championship years, but in the last 2-year legacy for this defense, the performance just needs to be better.
I'm actually going to side a little bit more with you and give you more ammunition, because I don't know that Miami forced 4 turnovers. I'm counting they forced 1. I wish that number could be cleaned up in college football and football in general,
right?
Because the first one was a bad exchange between quarterback, running back. It was Franks not deciding or having that feel with the running back, and they coughed it up. The second one was slightly bad pitch to P. Ryan, but should have controlled the football, and he fumbled it. Third one was Franks had a wide open receiver down the seam, missed him, tipped it up in the air. It was a great catch by Amari Carter. Exceptional catch, but it was tipped to him and the kid was wide open. The third one, though, the pass rush got to Felipe Franks. He coughed it up. He threw it. It looked like he was going to throw into coverage anyway. It looked like it was a poor decision anyway.
He pump faked the ball that way and then threw the ball there, and it was all white Miami jerseys around. I don't understand. And that was when they had the lead late in the fourth quarter. I don't know what you're doing or whatever, bro, but hey, so okay, we forced 1, but we got 4 or whatever. So I think that just that goes towards my point. Then the defense. Look, I'm happy with getting turnovers. Getting the ball back when we need it. But I would just like to see those things. Because just think about it. If Miami was consistent in executing their assignments, Miami wins that game. Those 2 plays, like I said, led to 14 points. That right there. And we lost by 4. That's not even taking into account the muff punt for Jeff Thomas. And then, there's that. And then dropped a touchdown, which is, you can call that 14 points if you want to call it 10 because of the missed field goal, or 17, whichever way. But, there's so many points left on the margins that, with, just the outcome of several plays being very different. I think, Miami easily could have won that game. And obviously you could come and say the same thing if Florida decided that they wanted to hold on to the ball and everything. But then I think that would have been Felipe Franks playing to a level that I think is above his head if they were to have done that. But it was there's a lot of fodder to talk about, for sure.
Mark Rodgers TV, the voice of college football. This is what we do each and every Wednesday night. We bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U. So please join him and the rest of the staff over there on SB Nation State of the U for your Miami football coverage. And of course, we've been gearing up for this one for a long time. Miami and Florida in Orlando, and the Canes drop one close 24-20. Please join us on the Super Chat. You can contribute to the channel there. Likes, comments, shares, and subscribe to the channel as well. We've talked a number of times about guys that would need to step up in this game, that would need to play significant minutes, that weren't necessarily name players last season for Miami. Are there any guys that come to mind, whether poor performance or surprisingly good performance, guys that you didn't know a whole lot about? Of course, you know about everybody on the roster, but in regards to us knowing their potential on the field, guys that got a look that you have a take on now, having seen them against a good football team?
Amari Carter and Gervin Hall at safety have to lead the list. They were the leading tacklers in the game. Gervin Hall had 8 tackles and a PBU. Amari Carter had 7 tackles and a sack. Obviously, I just spoke about Amari Carter blowing a coverage, but it's encouraging to see those two guys in the secondary replacing Jaquan Johnson and Sheldrick Redwine because, those dudes started as safety for a while. So replacing them with the next level or the next group there, I think that was really good. Al Blaze Jr. just stepping up into a bigger role at cornerback. I think that was really great to see. Everybody on offense. I liked what I saw from Cam Harris. I hate the fact that, that big run had to come back because of a holding penalty. But I think that he's definitely going to be a guy who flashes. KJ Osborne, it was his first time playing in a Miami uniform coming over from Buffalo. We threw the ball to him 4 times. He caught the ball 4 times. And I think that he was open on a couple of those other plays that were sacks. And Jaron Williams even talked about it. There was one in particular where if he would have just dumped the ball off to a short, shallow crosser, which was Osborne, who was wide open underneath, he could have probably run for a first down out of bounds late in the game. So, he came in strong early, played really well. Will Mallory dropped a couple balls. I wasn't excited to or expecting to see that from him. So I definitely think he needs to take a step forward. Brevin Jordan continues to write his legacy as the best tight end in America. And again, if you're listening to this or watching this and you say he's not the best tight end in America, then I openly defy you to tell me somebody who's better than him right now. Like, that's just the point of fact. On top of that, Jaron Williams we already spoke about. And the last thing that we're going to have to speak about moving forward also are the offensive tackles and the offensive line. It just wasn't good enough. John Campbell had like 3 penalties and a few sacks allowed. Zion Nelson he was out of his depth trying to block Jabari Zuniga. That was not they left him one-on-one so much with Zuniga. I was just like, that's not smart. Put a running back over there, put an inline tight end, have him chip block, or do something. Double team, but don't lead a man as a true freshman just over there one-on-one with a guy who could be a first-round draft pick. That's a big ask for him right now. Campbell and Nelson, they do need to step it up for sure.
Maybe
No, go.
Keep going. If you've got more to.
Well, no, I was going to actually answer the question on the screen, so I know people are going to hear this later. What do I think about SCOTT PATCHAN in all capital letters? I think SCOTT PATCHAN played well. He's a big body defensive end, number 71 now. So he changed his number from 19 to 71, which is what his father wore at Miami when he was a national championship offensive lineman for the U and everything. So coming into his redshirt junior year, he's battled injuries for a long time and things like that. And he's working hard to be on the field. And he's starting right now. And, he held the point of attack on, left defensive end going up against the right end or right tackle for Florida's offense. And that was so key, again, because the whole game plan for Felipe Franks was to make him run to his left. So you have to anchor somebody over there to make that happen. You had to set that edge strong. And SCOTT PATCHAN did a damn good job of that. He graded out very highly on Pro Football Focus. He got praise from the coaches and players and things like that. I would like to see, when the rotation expands a little bit and things like that, and we're trying to get up the field more, I definitely do need to see Gregory Rousseau and Trayvon Hill a little bit more than they played against Florida. I'm not going to say even more than SCOTT PATCHAN in general, but I do need to see those guys integrated more into the rotation and defensive end. But yeah, SCOTT PATCHAN played a hell of a game, honestly. And if you can't see that, then I would say, look, go on your DVR, go back and rewatch that game because that dude played really well.
Mark Rodgers TV, the voice of college football. This is what we do each and every Wednesday night as we set you up with 3 straight hours of college football talk. Miami in the middle at 8 o'clock Eastern time with Cam Underwood from State of the U. We've got one in the books. It's Florida 24, Miami 20. Hard-fought game, not a whole lot of offense, a couple big plays on each side. Jaron Williams turned in a 19 for 30 effort, 214 yards, 1 touchdown. I think the most debated portion of his play on this night were those sacks his fault? I think it's a combination of both. Certainly the offensive line got manhandled at times, but certainly he held onto the ball or did not choose the right option in regards to stepping up in the pocket, giving himself a few more seconds. A couple times he started to roll, but in a jog type manner, and he got caught from behind, in which he should have made a decision to get the ball downfield, step up in the pocket, do something else. But he just kind of tried to like steer himself away from the rush and got pulled down from behind a number of times. And unfortunately, Miami had a shot because of two idiotic penalties on the Florida defense late in the game on 3rd and 4th and forever, like a 4th and 34, tackling Jeff Thomas. I think it was the second time downfield and giving Jaron and company a shot. They got it. You were in the 20-25 yard line at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was maybe a little bit further than that, but I mean, after that interception return, which went to the 25, and then we had penalties from there, that was a 10-play drive that went -2 yards. Like with all of the penalties, because I mean, yeah, we ended up the first snap, after there was like a penalty back to the 40, and then there was another penalty. So like it was like first down and 20 something on my side of the 50 when we had the ball down to like the 20 or 25 yard line after the interception return there. So yeah, again, I do see what Jaron was trying to do, extend the plays because, he can run, but he's not like Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick kind of a runner. So he's trying to keep his eyes downfield and use his arm and then, give the skill position guys a chance to make plays. But, again, that wasn't able to come through. And, I think that was where more so than the passing game, because last year in the spring game, it looked like he kind of double clutched a couple passes because he's like, oh, I didn't think that linebacker was going to flash under that route. On Saturday, it was, not being quick enough on the uptake on whether to run or throw the ball away. You know what I mean? So, but he's going to improve. And he also didn't play very badly. Like he did some things that stick out as very poor. But it was like, it's a lot of making the same mistake. You know what I mean? And he's young. So he made a lot of the same mistake in this game. And hopefully he doesn't make those same mistakes again.
Cam Underwood, State of the U, joining us, says he does each and every Wednesday night for Miami Hurricanes Live. It's our 23rd edition. And, of course, Cam has joined us a ton more than that. There must be some news out there involving, or at least rumors, Isaiah Walker concerning his recruiting status.
Isaiah Walker Jr. had an on-site interview by my friend Andrew Ivins from 247 Sports, in which he detailed his top 3 of the big 3 in the state of Florida. Said Florida is number 1, Miami is number 2, and Florida State's running 3rd. He was quick to come back and say that the distance or the difference between Miami and Florida is not large. But right now, Florida is number 1 on his list of those 2. And he just, he was talking about, the connection there and the coaches recruiting and the offensive line coach and everything being, just a guy that he can connect to. He also, made a lot of the same statements about Butch Berry at Miami. But yeah, just putting things in an ordinal order. He has Florida at number 1 right now. So I don't think it's a be all end all by any means. It is where things currently stand. And that, it's not necessarily the greatest thing. Like, we would like to have him committed in lockdown and not talking to anybody else. But this is a recruitment that's going to go all the way to signing day, whether that's in December or February. I'm not going to take this as, terminal at all. But it is definitely something that we do have to overcome. But yeah, right now, Florida 1, Miami 2, Florida State 3 for Isaiah Walker Jr. As we move into, the heart of the high school football and college football seasons.
I'm probably overstating this. I know that the first field goal kicked by Miami was on like a 4th and 1.5, 4th and 2, but it seemed like the number of times that they tried, 1 or 2 times was obvious, but there was an opportunity. Not that I'm second guessing Manny Diaz, but I'm just saying that it would have been reasonable to understand, to think that there was a decision to be made, that there were arguments to be made on either side in regards to going for it on 4th down or letting backs a kick, especially considering that he's not the most reliable guy in the world.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. The first one, no, I don't think. I think that you kick that and you take the points because that was the first drive of the game. You know what I mean? So go up 3-0. The other, I'm trying to see if I can find it. Drives by team. No, I can't see what the final play was on here. I'd have to get the actual play-by-play. But yeah, I just don't. A lot of them I didn't think were a thing that I would have tried to press the situation than in a different way than we did. The 4th and 9 late in the game. There's like a new analytics site that we're partnered with or partnering with SB Nation. I forget the name of the site, but anyway, they put up a thing and said, look, these are all of the games in which a team had an opportunity to score, trailing by 4, less than 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter in the last like 5 or 6 years. Every team that won the game in the position Miami was in went for it on that 4th and 9 and scored a touchdown. Every single one. Anybody who kicked a field goal lost. Like it wasn't not even close. So I think that the going for it on that late 4th and 9 on the last possession, I think that was the right decision. I question the play call, but I don't question the decision to go for it. I question the way in which we went for it. You know what I mean?
Refresh my memory. What was the play call?
It was like a 4-man route with no extra protection, and they just blitzed and Jaron fumbled the snap too and everything. It was just like it was a mess from the beginning.
Oh, the one that shot off to the side.
That was the last play. So obviously we need to execute it better, and I think that the play call might have been different. I mean, and you had a timeout there because Miami ended the game with a timeout, so you'll take a timeout and do what you got to do. But yeah, I don't question the decision to go. I question the play that we called when we decided to go.
EMyers 1981 is wondering when we may see Bubba Bolden and Lorenzo Lingard.
Lorenzo Lingard, I think sooner than later, just because he's cleared. You know what I mean? He's practicing. He's full go. All that stuff. So it's just a matter of him finding a way into the lineup. And I think that we'll have maybe the opportunity. Sorry, it felt like it was raining inside my house. I don't know what's going on. And there's no vent over me, so it's not condensation. Anyway, I'm sorry. Lorenzo Lingard, I think you'll see maybe even as early as next week at North Carolina. I think that he's going to get snaps. He's a big physical guy. He was a 5-star for a reason, and I think he's itching for a chance to play up to it. Bubba Bolden is still waiting to be 100% cleared by the NCAA. So he is a full participant in practice, in full pads and everything. That's been multiply reported by, every beat writer who's there. Our guy, Gabby Arrudia, David Ferones of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, Susan Miller-Degnan of the Miami Herald, Manny Navarro of the Athletic. Everybody said, yeah, Bubba Bolden is in full gear. So, he's doing that. We just need the NCAA to come through and say, hey, he can go, which, should not be an issue because he went to junior college for the, required time of residence before coming over to Miami, completed all of his requirements, got his, degree from junior college and whatever. So I don't understand what the holdup is with the NCAA, but basically until such time as they see fit, we will not see Bubba Bolden hit the field in any way other than a street clothes kind of thing.
Okay, Cam, the use of Tate Martell, I don't think that he got the football, but he was in quite a bit. And my thought is the coaches know what they're doing. They know the players. They know the capability of the players. I don't, although I know that the kid's fast, basically, is all I know about watching Tate Martell play as a quarterback. But I got to think for a team that's a top 10 to 15 team in the country at the wide receiver / tight end position, and probably better than that, and just because a guy's fast as a quarterback and he's played quarterback his whole life and he's fast doesn't mean that he necessarily has the acumen to read the coverage, run the right route, the agility and the contortion of his body and just to do all the other athletic things that he needs to do as a wide receiver, plus catch the ball. And not that there's a difference between catching the ball on the sideline when you're a football player. When you're a football player, generally, unless you're playing offensive tackle, you can handle the football. But to do it in a game with traffic when there are guys hanging on you is a different deal. I just kind of question whether with the rest of the ability at wide receiver and tight end, whether Tate Martell's a valuable player to put out there to take up somebody else's spot.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you to a point. Tate Martell, obviously, he came in wildcat situations. Jaron Williams was still on the field. Also, he did run some routes just from like slot receiver, wildcat kind of a thing. But, on DJ Dallas's 50-yard touchdown run, you saw how motioning Tate Martell across the formation completely affected the defense. That created the space that DJ Dallas used to get to the third level, spin off some terrible tackling attempts, and then get to the end zone. Somebody talking about CJ Henderson. CJ Henderson is not about that life in terms of tackling. He's very good as a coverage player, but, given the opportunity to, blast DJ Dallas or at least get him on the ground on that play, he turtled. He was scared. He's not about that action. He doesn't want to be physical in that kind of a way. And Miami scored because of it, so thank you. But yeah, again, that play stretched. It was almost like running an inverted. Well, it was an inverted veer kind of a thing, but it wasn't even because, we didn't even fake the ball to Tate on that play. We just let him run, just go across, lateral motion. And then it worked. My thing is, how much of that do you want to do? You know what I mean? And if he had 15 snaps out of 66, and you have guys like Mark Pope and DeCourse Wiggins, D. Wiggins getting 3 each, and they, you know what I mean? Like, that's not equitable. You know what I mean? And, just looking at it, I saw Daniel Gould, a guy who does analytics and looking at snap counts and everything. He said, look, Tate got 11 snaps in non-wildcat situations. So if everybody's trying to say that, oh, hey, it has to be because he's in the wildcat package, he ran from base offense. So he's playing in front of other guys who play that position. So I don't really know, man. It's a tough kind of balancing act. If he wants to learn the position, obviously, and he came to the coaches and said, hey, I want to be on the field and help this team, so I'm willing to go and play wide receiver. That's good. Like, you want guys to be in it for the team, not necessarily in it for themselves to do their thing. Like, you're just kind of a spoiled brat high school kid who's, quarterback because his dad was the coach or something like that. All that being said, bro, he was at wide receiver for like a week in practice. And you got guys who have a demonstrated history of excellence. Like Mark Pope, he won Miami Southridge a state championship on that very field a couple of years ago. They ran a go ball to D. Wiggins, who's his high school teammate, and it was like covered a certain way. He said, hey, flip that, put me on the left side, I'm gone. Did it, caught it, 72 yards later, boom, Miami Southridge wins the state championship in Orlando in that stadium because this dude is like that. But all of a sudden now you get 3 snaps, and then Tate Martell gets 4 times the number of snaps at wide receiver, not even taking into account in the Wildcat package, but at wide receiver, he played 11 and I played 3. And I'm a high school All-American, and I've been here and I've been doing this, and I got all this kind of physical ability and everything. It's tough, man. It's going to be an interesting balancing act. And honestly, I want to see what happens going forward, because if and when somebody transfers, which I think may happen if he keeps usurping snaps from people, then that's going to trickle down to recruiting, because then now you need, instead of 3 in a possible wide receivers this year, you need 4 in a possible in this recruiting class. And then it just, it keeps going like that.
It reminded me of watching Tim Tebow with the New York Jets. So after he had been starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos, and when basically NFL personnel directors had determined Tim Tebow is not a starting quarterback or even a backup quarterback in the NFL, which I somewhat question that he couldn't have been a backup. But anyway, he was kind of relegated. Cam's looking at me here.
I am. No. Tim Tebow is not an NFL player. He's an NFL player at fullback or tight end, but quarterback, no. Anyway, continue.
I've never seen a quarterback post an 8-4 record as a professional and never be given a shot to quarterback again. No, I would not want him quarterbacking my team, but as a backup, I think he was capable of being a backup. But anyway, with the New York Jets, they were throwing him at, yes, fullback, tight end, putting him in the slot. And I'm just thinking, really, you've got a professional football team, which is borderline when talking the New York Jets. But anyway, you've got an NFL team. I can't imagine that the guys that you've drafted and signed as wide receivers, as slot guys, at tight ends, are not better than Tim Tebow in that position. Really? You're going 4 wide and you've got Tim Tebow out there. Really? So that's just what ran through my mind. And Tate Martell could crush Tim Tebow in a 40-yard dash. He's a faster dude, but still kind of that same feel of, this is a guy that doesn't do this on a regular basis. He's not trained to do this. Not that he couldn't do it someday, but just to catch balls in traffic and outfight defenders for footballs and run routes. And I just can't imagine that he's one of the 3 or 4 best that they could put on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think that he is either. But hey, if he continues to play, obviously the coaches see something different, and hopefully they, and the other part of things is I know that the rotation is going to increase at pretty much every position other than quarterback as we move down the schedule. Like this is a game where, I mean, except for Florida State, like Florida and Florida State, those are the games again against the most talented teams that you're going to play this year, where you truncate the rotation and say, look, these second stringers, these like guys who are going to get a couple snaps, instead of getting 10, they're going to get 2 in this game. They might not even, or like all the snaps go to one guy, just because we cannot go down past the level of talent that we have at the top of the roster. So, I mean, there are guys who are going to get more snaps. And again, 66 snaps, even with getting 4 turnovers, is not a lot of snaps. So if you get, in that 75-ish range, if I do a quick CFB stats look, click, just bear with me for 2 seconds. Total offense, there we go. And can I get, I don't want the total. No, I don't want players. I want game logs. There we go. Yeah. So Miami ran 72 or more plays 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times last year. They ran more than what I say, 66. So they ran 68, 69 also, and 66. So, I mean, you're going to have more snaps, I think, to give on offense than you did this week, which then hopefully would give other guys the opportunity to play as well, instead of, all those snaps going to Tate Martell. No disrespect, but I mean, there's other guys who I think can see the field as well, especially at receiver.
All right, Mark Rodgers TV, the voice of college football. This is what we do each and every Wednesday night with Cam Underwood from State of the U. So now that we're into the football season, every day, new posts on State of the U talking Miami football. And of course, we do the whole circuit on college football right here. Mark Rodgers TV, the voice of college football. I won't even try to describe all the previews, schedule previews, position previews, game previews, at least 10 for this week at Mark Rodgers TV, the voice of college football. So please lock it in right there. If you want my predictions, you go to the voice of college football community. Grab that link down in the description section below. We appreciate the contribution from J Love T. And also there was somebody else who contributed in the super chat. I apologize. I did not grab that name in time. And the contribution has passed me by, but I will grab that as soon as I can, because we love to recognize you who have contributed to the channel. DJ Dallas, only 12 carries. And I know because of the pace of the game, this was almost like an old school kind of game in regards to pace of play. Neither team tries to push it. They actually, I don't know that they huddle, but anyway, I couldn't see that the way that they huddle.
Mm-hmm.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, both teams huddle.
You've got that old school pace of game, like a 1980s, 90s pace of play from both teams, and you don't see that very often now. So there is a limited number of plays. So I know when I point out that DJ Dallas only got 12 carries, it's not 12 carries out of 90 plays. It's 12 carries out of the 66 that you mentioned. But still, it just seemed as though maybe they could have gotten him involved a little bit more, because you mentioned the business decision made by CJ Henderson. I would probably be on that end of the decision as well, because, man, that kid gets rolling downfield, DJ Dallas, and those hips, those thighs, they are serious.
Yeah, but he wasn't even rolling downfield, honestly. Like, he was kind of in the middle of a half spin, with his back facing the defense, facing, towards our own end zone at the time that Henderson came in.
Yeah, he was spinning.
Right.
Yeah.
That was like, he was not like, just a bull in a china shop coming downhill. At that time. But I mean, it's tough because, we did have some ability to run the ball sometimes, but, because I still have the stats page open, it's only 2.6 yards per carry. Now I know that was, a little bit lower because of the sack numbers, but if I do some math real quick, because I'm a nerd. So it's 11, 45 divided by 11. So you're talking 4 yards a carry for DJ Dallas outside of that 50-yard touchdown. You know what I mean? Like, that's good. Like, 4 yards in a cloud of dust will get you a first down every 3 plays. But I mean, it wasn't like he was just explosive, just, carving swaths through their defense. So, I mean, Yeah, I mean, you got to do some different things. You got to go in the quick passing game. Especially with what the offensive line was giving us. So, I mean, in general, could DJ Dallas be even more of a used feature back? Yes, but I think that we pretty much hit about where he should have been in this game. And again, especially like, you catch that touchdown at the end. There's no hold. If there's no holding on the Cam Harris run, which again there was holding on that run, all those kind of things. So I think and DJ Dallas had 4 catches in the game as well from the in the screen game. So he touched the ball 16 times. I think that's a good number, especially given the number of plays we had.
So I'm going to latch onto something you just said about doing different things. And those different things seem to be self-evident on the first drive of the game. And it's easy to, when the plays work, it's easy to say, yeah, they should be doing that. And when the plays don't work, saying, what the hell are they doing? But on that first drive, when Jaron Williams went 5 for 5, it seemed as though, and it's difficult to see on TV what the wide receivers are doing all the time and why the space is there, but they were getting quick outlet passes in the slot, and those guys were open. Whatever they were doing underneath was working. And later in the game, they seemed to be having Jaron play action, turning his back on the defense. It seemed as though the plays were a little bit longer in developing.
Yeah, I mean, we went really quick early and then went, to some of those hard play action fakes, where you turn your back to the defense late. And I wish that we would have had a little bit better field position throughout like the middle of the game, because I think that would have allowed Miami to do some of those things that you saw in that first drive a little bit more. But when you have the ball, on your own 5, on your own 4, that's not in the kind of situation that leads you to be able to do those kind of a thing. Schematically, you don't want to go quick and you don't want to do those kind of things because you make a mistake in the quick read game or a quick pass game like that, on the 5-yard line, that's a pick 6 with 2 steps between the interception and the end zone. So there was that. Plus the fact, Florida, again, a very good defense. I'm sure that they covered up some of those things that we exploited early in the game. So, there was that as well.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. Please join him and the rest of the staff. He's mighty proud of the work that they do, and rightfully so. The number of writers that they have. We had ourselves, Justin DeTavio, on this week, breaking down Dan Enos's approach and Jaron Williams' first start at quarterback for Miami. So please check out that video. You'll see Florida, Miami, X's and O's that features Justin DeTavio right there. And we're here every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say before you went on, our guy, Justin DeTavio, and I did watch that video. Very good, by the way. He has a piece evaluating all of the sacks from the game coming up on the website tomorrow. I know that David Wilson from the Miami Herald did one yesterday, but I didn't even read it because I'm waiting to see our guy's piece before I read somebody else's piece about it. And then I can go and compare it. But read everybody's stuff, listen to everybody's podcast, all those kind of things. But yeah, we do have an evaluation of all of I think it's all 10 sacks and then like an almost sack as well. So I think it's a film breakdown of 11 different plays coming up. So be sure you're on the lookout for that on stateoftheu.com tomorrow.
So a bye week this week, and then it's, I believe, Bethune-Cookman
at North Carolina.
Oh, okay. So a game that matters.
Yes, indeed. So possibly. We start Florida bye week at UNC, and then we have the home opener against Bethune, and then Central Michigan, and on through the rest of the schedule.
At North Carolina, a difficult out a couple years ago, as I recall, en route to 10-0, trailing at halftime. Mac Brown should be an interesting one. I know that they just named their starting quarterback, so I will have to prime myself on the Tar Heels.
Yeah, Sam Howell, true freshman, who Miami kind of kicked the tires on in recruiting last year. He was committed to Florida State for the longest and then ended up signing there to North Carolina. And they open in Charlotte against South Carolina this weekend.
Yeah.
So I definitely will be giving that a look-see to, kind of take a gander at what they're going to do. But yeah, so we have an ACC game up next before we get to the rest of the non-conference schedule, or another part of the non-conference schedule.
Mighty interesting. We've had as many as 300 on the line. We again invite you back, but also bring your family, friends, and college football acquaintances right here every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Cam, it's always a good time. We appreciate you coming on. That's 0-1, but I know you expected it. Now I really know that you expected it when you let us know that you picked it at 24-20.
Hey, man, I mean, you guys know, like, I know what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, I was right about that one, like, to the T. But yeah, you know, in the interim, be sure you check out all of our stuff, stateoftheu.com, on all of our social media. We're at the State of the U. That's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. My personal Twitter is Underwood Sports. And I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday.
Ohio State football talk coming up in just a few minutes, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it. We will see you next week.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, man.